Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage Eitel.
All right, my name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And man, oh man, I had my headphones turned up way too loud, and Ike, the announcer, almost knocked me right out of my shorts. Guys, sorry about that. Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. My name is Mark Eitel, and friends, you're in the right place if you want the data, the inside information, not the headlines, but the real data. The tips, the tricks, the strategies, all the info that you need so you can go out and make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. If any of that sounds like you, you're in the right place because we do this each week right here, same bat time, same bat station, and it is our goal to get you that information. I hope everybody's had an amazing week. We've got a great show lined up for you this week. Man, there was a lot of news around housing again. I mean, if one more person walks up to me and says, we're in a housing bubble, it's going to crash, I don't care what the data says, I'm just going to reach out and pop them in the back. No, I'm kidding. But there's a lot of misconceptions around that. So we are going to dive into all of that today. We're going to talk about interest rates too. Everybody saw the market last Thursday, a week ago, and big run up in the stock market and a little pullback in mortgage rates, which was refreshing, right, for the first time in a while. So we're going to dig into that. As always, we're going to take your questions. Your questions are my favorite part of the show, and you can get those to us by calling or texting 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. Call or text that number. That is the Anytime Hotline. And we call it that because when we're not in the studio doing the show, that number pushes to my office. We forward it to the office. So 855-462-7292 is the Anytime Hotline. And that's how you get us when we're here or there. So, and you heard me mention us. Jennifer, my producer, is in the studio with me. She is womanning the hotline and will get your questions on the air. Hey, Jen, did you have a good week?
It's been a fantastic week.
All right. It's been a great week on my side of the headphones, too, now that I've got the volume adjusted correctly. But hey, guys, you heard me mention the headlines, and I do want to dive into those. So I had an interesting experience yesterday. A friend of mine actually asked me, listen, Mark, you say all the time that the headlines don't matter, but how can you ignore the headlines? Doesn't the data line up? Was more or less the question. And it got me thinking, right? Because the average person who's not into this stuff, and I get it, this is kind of geeky stuff when you're talking about real estate economics, mortgage economics. It's kind of like the baseball fan who knows his favorite player's stats all the way back to the minors. I know Greg's a big fan of baseball. My buddy Tim used to play professional ball and coached pro ball, and he can probably name the stat on any of his favorite players. But this is my baseball arena, right? So I geek out on all the data. But it got me thinking about how misleading the headlines are. And I wanted to share something with you. And guys, I posted this to the Facebook page. So if you have any interest, go to Facebook and check out the Mr. Mortgage Show. Just go ahead, and if you go to your Facebook profile in the upper left-hand corner, you can search Facebook. I don't even know how many people realize that, but type in the Mr. Mortgage Show up in that search bar, and our show page for the radio show will pop up. But I posted a graphic that I want to share with you. It says housing bubble fears are nothing new. Now, you hear me poke fun at CNBC and Diana Olick all the time. Well, here's another reason why I do that. Here's an article from October 6th, 2015. Housing Today, a bubble larger than 2006. Now, if you would have just read that headline 7 some odd years ago, it sounds like there's a lot of risk in housing. Well, guys, if you bought a house in 2015, you are whistling Dixie right now because you are in tall cotton, as my grandfather used to say. But let's go on. This continues. Homeownership doesn't build wealth, study finds. That was published in November of 2017. It's better to rent than buy in today's housing market. Published September 5th, 2018. You see where I'm going with this. Go back to that oldest article I referenced, 2015. The house, it's done nothing but make sense to buy and own real estate in the last 7 years. Here's another one from 2019. The housing market is about to shift in a very bad way for buyers. Well, if you read that article, they weren't talking about scorching appreciation. It's another swing and a miss. Here we go. The hits keep on coming. The next year will be very hard on the housing market, especially in these big cities. And it went on to list all the cities in danger. Well, that was December of 2019, right before the pandemic. And here we go again, June of 2021. Housing boom may be cooling as weekly mortgage demand drops again. Well, there was a couple month drop and then we took right off. And it wasn't until October 21st of 21 that I called the bottom of the rate market. Now, I missed it by a few weeks, but I was within like a 16th of a point. So all of these headlines, all of these articles reference doom and gloom for housing. And I only went back 7 years. I could have kept the party rolling. And then I clicked on today's page, and here was an article that said, again, Diana Olick at CNBC, here's why Home Depot and Lowe's are booming in a housing market bust. Guys, I don't know about you, but other than the headlines, I'm not seeing a bust. I'm seeing slower activity, but I'm not seeing prices slide significantly. I am seeing sellers willing to participate again and negotiate a slightly lower price or seller contribution. We talk about that all the time, use the seller contribution to buy the interest rate down. But let me go on. So I continued reading through the headlines of today, and this one said, here's why Home Depot and Lowe's are booming. And then 2 stories later, Raymond James, they said they downgrade Home Depot as challenges are ahead. Well, wait a minute. Diana says they're booming. Raymond James is cutting their rating. And then home builder sentiment drops again for the 11th straight month. And that one's important. And we are going to cover that in this week's show because that ties back to supply and demand. And you heard me talk about it last week. We talked about the Forbes study that was released that showed over 90, I think it was 95 and change. Let's round it down to be fair. 95% of owner-occupied U.S. households are either completely mortgage-free or their mortgage is in good standing with equity in the home. So I don't know about you, but if you own your home right now and your interest rate's in the 3s or 4s or 2s or 1s, or you were one of those super lucky people that hit the bottom of the bottom, you're not selling anytime soon. You're not motivated to sell, that's for sure. And I talk to people every day who are in that boat. And a lot of people are using the equity line strategy to pay debt off because they don't even want to refinance that first mortgage, even though sometimes that makes sense despite a slightly higher interest rate. And we'll talk about that too. So the reason I'm sharing all this is not to poke fun at CNBC and Diana Olick, although I love to do that. But those headlines are exactly why I do that, because if that's all you read, right, you don't know what the heck's going on. You would have read that first article 7 years ago and taken a pass on a property that more than doubled in value. Or you would have read that article from 2 years ago and taken a pass on buying at a historically low interest rate right into the most aggressively appreciating cycle that we've seen in a long time. So the reason I'm sharing that information is I want to encourage everybody to exhale. Here, do it with me. Ready? Deep breath in. Breathe out all the negative headlines. My point is just exhale. Don't get caught up in the headlines. The headline is not the story. The headline is that big, screeching noise that gets your attention, and then it's up to you to seek out the real information. Sadly, the news is a business. It's their goal to listen, they did a brilliant job. I just went back and pulled 6 articles from 7 years. They've done their job. They've gotten my full and undivided attention. Sadly, I'm not getting the full truth when I read the headlines. And that's my point, guys. It's not to, accuse anybody of intentionally misleading us, because I don't think that's the case. My point in all of this is to encourage you just to read the data and not the headlines, because there's so much more to it. But hey, you hear the music. You know what that means? Jen is giving me the cue. We'll be back in 2. Sit tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we're going to dive into the meaty part of the show and take your questions. Sit tight. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction, and that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome, but if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com, www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org. It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you heard the man. You are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. Jen and I do this each week right here, same time, same station, and it is our goal to bring you the information, the data. I can't say that enough, not the headlines, but the data, the tips, the tricks, the strategies, all the info that you need so you can go out there and make informed, better decisions for you and your family when it comes to real estate and mortgages. And guys, I encourage your questions or comments. Just call or text 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime hotline. 855-462-7292. Jen is standing by and she will get your questions on the air. So I appreciate you giving me some time there to get that off my chest. Hopefully you see my point in how misleading the headlines can be. That was just a handful of articles that I pulled in just a few minutes, and we can do that every day. I mean, honestly, every day there's a headline that, depending on what your ulterior motive is, you could twist and bend it to mean anything. And that's why I like to look at the data. And, you know, right now the data still supports, as much as we want, if you're buying, values to come down, and if you're selling, values to continue to go up. As much as we want, for our own personal reasons, these things to happen, the data right now as it sits supports a leveling but still appreciating housing market. And guys, it's not going to appreciate, 10, 15, 20% like it did during that blip of the pandemic. But, almost all of the major forecasts around real estate do project a single-digit appreciation. And a single-digit appreciation over a very short period of time can rack up significant equity wealth. And, one of the main reasons why I do the show, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all about promoting the Mr. Mortgage team. And guys, that we serve our clients in Florida from our Palm Beach Gardens headquarters. but we're all over the country. And our goal is to give people the information they need to get over that hump, because I had an interesting conversation this morning with a friend of mine about how the younger generation, the kids that are just now getting out of high school and college, transitioning into adulthood, they have a good chance of missing out on the homeownership opportunity. And guys, we call it the American dream, and it sounds so cliche, right? Especially to the younger generation. They're, the cell phone, the smartphone rather, the app generation. You don't need a car, you can Uber. You don't need to go to the store, you can order delivery, which is awesome. There's so much convenience in our life. But with real estate, if you don't own a home, you're never going to have appreciation. And I can point to almost any successful household that I know, friends, family, neighbors, that building equity over time portion of their wealth component is significant. Listen, if you're sitting at home right now listening and your home is paid off and mortgages don't interest you other than these conversations you have no intent of doing, that's awesome, but you didn't get there without buying that first home. So I encourage you guys, if you're listening and maybe this doesn't apply to you right now because you're not buying or selling today, you may know somebody who you can assist and influence with your wisdom and guidance and encourage them to jump into home ownership. Because as I mentioned, I was talking to my friend Tim, and he's got kids coming out of school, and it's just startling to me to think that they've already given up hope. And some of them are convinced it's not even that important. And it's just interesting to me because that very first home I bought was because a mentor gave me the guidance. I liked the idea, but I didn't know how important it was. But without doing that, I wouldn't have been able to purchase all the homes after that. And then at one point, pull some equity out in the form of equity lines and buy some investment property. And I made that money, that equity, that wealth component of my life back then without saving any money, purely with leverage and other people paying the mortgages in the form of giving me rent money for investment properties, or me making my own singular house payment each month and my home going up slowly. Guys, I told the story last week. If you missed last week's show, go to mrmortgageradio.com and listen to it. I told the story when I bought my first home. Interest rates were in the double digits and appreciation was 3%. That's anemic, 3%. And I still earned equity wealth. And that wasn't my goal. My goal was just the freedom of owning my own home and not having a landlord and being able to remodel the kitchen and paint this and do that without having to worry. So anyway, I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but that's why we do this. Yes, we're in the business of writing mortgages, and yes, I want to help as many people in that capacity as I can. But more importantly, whether you use my firm or not, I want people to be positive about real estate. Heck, I talked to a listener who was kind enough to call and let us help him with purchasing an investment property. And he's finding opportunities everywhere. He's walking his dog through his neighborhood and finds out this neighbor is moving to assisted living, that one's downsizing. There's opportunity all around him, and he's using the landlord loan to buy some investment property. So that's what we're doing, guys. And if you want to be a part of it, call or text 855-462-7292. And again, if you missed last week's show, you can double back and catch it at mrmortgageradio.com. But hey, that's enough of me. Let's get to you. I know Jen's got some questions over there. Hey, Jen, what do we have question-wise?
Nancy called in asking, I've been listening to your show for a while and heard you talk about a reverse mortgage. How does this work if we still have a mortgage on the house?
Hey, Nancy, that's a great question. And think of it just like any other, it's going to be classed as a refinance. And think of it like any other refinance you've done in your life. That reverse mortgage will become first lien position, and we will pay off your current mortgage with the proceeds of the reverse. So with, one caveat being there needs to be enough equity to absorb that and pay that first mortgage off with the reverse mortgage. So super duper question, and I appreciate it. If you need more information about a reverse mortgage or how any of it works, there are so many moving parts, and you definitely want to take the time to have all of your questions answered, I would encourage you to give us a call off the air, 855-462-7292. As I mentioned, the Anytime hotline forwards to my office when we're not on the air, and I'll be happy to walk you through it. But hey, that was a great question, and I certainly do appreciate it. Hey, Jen, what else do we have?
Sean just emailed us. How does a seller contribution work if the appraisal comes in low?
Hey, Sean, brilliant question, and you've been listening. So, guys, right now we're encouraging people who are buying homes, and they're a little bit rate shocked, right? Because you got spoiled. Rates were in the ones, and then the twos, and then the threes, and then boom, up to the 5s, 6s, and then 7s for a moment there. They have pulled back into the 6s. But hey, Sean, great question. So when the seller will contribute some money towards your closing costs or an interest rate buy down, that, you can often get the rate sometimes a full point or more lower. But anyway, to answer your question, Sean, it might not work if the appraisal comes in low. The appraised value or the purchase price, whichever's lower, is going to establish the point at the loan to value will be established from the lower of those two numbers. So that being said, if you made an offer on a property, or you accepted an offer on your property of, let's say, $300,000 to use round numbers, and you agreed to give the buyer back $15,000, again, round numbers, you need that to hit $300,000. If it comes in at $290,000, you're most likely going to expect a renegotiation no matter what side of the transaction you're on, because that spread's not there. Now, if the property comes back at $310,000, you're sitting pretty. But if it comes in short, you're most likely going to have to renegotiate, and there may not be a contribution given at that point. But that's a great question. We haven't seen a lot of that yet, but if the market starts to transition to a point where we're seeing a flattening cycle, we might have instances where the appraisal's not hitting. But man, great question. I appreciate that. Hey guys, you hear the music? You know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back into Sit Tight for 2 minutes. And on the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We kept our business above water with credit cards during the pandemic. I'm glad we did. Business is better than ever. But I didn't want to be a slave to those credit card payments. I called Mark about the REC loan he advertises. Long story short, we did a REC refinance and paid off everything, even the car. Now we only have the mortgage payment. We're saving a bunch every month. Yes, we are happy to recommend Mark and the Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Man, and if I sound out of breath, that's because I just ran down the hall and took care of some business and ran back. And you would be surprised at how much you can get done in 2 minutes if you're motivated. But anyway, guys, my name is Mark Eitel. You're listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show, and you're tuned in. And if you have questions or comments, give us a call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline, and Jen is womanning the Anytime Hotline. She'll get your questions on the air. So, hey, appreciate that. We had a couple good ones last segment. We talked about a seller contribution. What happens if the appraisal comes in low? I thought that was a great question. And then Nancy had a reverse mortgage question, which I always enjoy because right now with inflation and the cost of living just outpacing everybody's ability to cope, especially if you're on a fixed income, a lot of people are leaning towards that equity in their property. And for a lot of folks, a reverse mortgage makes sense. So I always enjoy talking about that loan program. So thank you for that. But hey, Jen, do we have any other questions? Okay, what do we have?
Here's a text from Jimmy. I was checking out your podcast and found some of your older shows. Seemed like you've been right about a few things. Where do you think rates and home values go from here?
All right, Jimmy. Could you say that again, Jen? I've been right about a few things. I know Jimmy didn't want to give me credit for being right about everything, but hey, I really do appreciate you checking out the podcast. And for anybody who wonders what Jimmy and I are talking about, go to MrMortgageRadio.com. At the end of each broadcast, we take the recorded version and post it up as a podcast to MrMortgageRadio.com. There's a lot of good stuff there. So I appreciate you going and checking that out. But where do we go from here? Isn't that the $100,000 or what was it? $64,000 pyramid, $64,000 question, right? Where do we go from here? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I feel very good about values holding. I think we go into a slow appreciation cycle. And I was very careful to say that slow appreciation because appreciation is still a very positive thing, even at a 2 or 3 or 4%, a 1% appreciation rate. Housing still, it's a wonderful opportunity to make money on something you need anyway, right? Housing's not free unless you're living in your mom's basement, and she's going to boot you out of there sooner or later. So most of the time we already have a housing expense. So you're replacing one for another. And even with flat zero appreciation, it still makes sense because you write off the interest and taxes and expenses against the property against your income tax. So you pay less tax. And even if properties don't appreciate, every month when you make that payment, a little more of that house is yours because you're paying down principal. So, and speaking of podcast episodes, there's a great one up there. You're going to have to scroll way down because it was one of the first ones I did, but it's called They're Both Equity. And I used, guys, if you listen to the show for any length of time, I think in pictures, and I'm a very, very simple Florida hillbilly. I say Florida hillbilly, even though there are very few hills in Florida, but it's just a term of endearment that I use. And I talked about the pretty sister and the ugly sister, and it could be pretty, ugly, anything. I don't know what you identify as, and I don't care. But my point in that was the attractive, sexy thing to talk about is appreciation. I bought this house for $100,000 2 years ago, and I sold it for $250,000, and look how smart I am. That's really exciting, appreciation. But principal reduction is not exciting. It takes time, and you do it slowly as you're making your payments. But you have equity at the end of that cycle too, and that's how I did it with my first property. So I think we go into a low appreciation cycle, meaning somewhere between 2 and 5%. I think rates have some upside from here, and then we settle back down somewhere in the 5s. That's just what my gut's telling me. And that's based on where we were pre-pandemic, because nothing that happened COVID related was normal. In our entire lives, we've never been locked in our homes, forbidden to work, and given money from the government to live. I know some people have always been given money from the government or by the government given money, but the entire country was forced not to work, and you didn't have to make your mortgage payment. You didn't have to make your rent payment. Banks and landlords were forbidden to evict or foreclose, and the government paid you unemployment, and they gave checks out. What did they call those? Those relief checks. We've never seen that in our lives. So to think anything that happened during that period was normal is just naive, including those interest rates. So I take all of that off the table, and including that appreciation. The only time we ever had any similar appreciation was during the early 2000 housing boom that was driven by the availability of money. And that was false demand because one person was buying 6, 8, 10 properties and selling it to only one person who was buying 6, 8, or 10 properties, all trying to capitalize on that short but very rapid paced appreciation. That was not normal. So as soon as that house of cards came tumbling down in the secondary market and there wasn't all that liquidity for these easy money loans, there wasn't one guy who wanted to buy 10 properties. Heck, there wasn't one guy who wanted to buy one property. And that's what started the downward cycle. We've seen none of that this time. We've seen people trying to buy their one singular primary residence. That was primarily what drove this market. And yes, interest rates made money super affordable, and that's what drove prices up. But the demand was not falsely enhanced by one person buying multiple properties. That's what I mean. What I mean by false demand, artificial demand. And I've said that, since 2005. So you want to get really, really historical on me, myself. Google my name in the Palm Beach Post and you'll find an article from, God, I don't know when it was, when I forecast this exact thing. I said, what I'm afraid of is this. And I shared what I just shared with you. So to answer your question, I know that's a long answer to your question, but I think we still have some upside pressure on interest rates before we settle back somewhere in the 5s. And then I think we're going to go through a long period. And by long, I mean, it could be 18 months. It could be 36 months. We'll see once we get a little further into 2023. But I think we go into a longer period of single-digit appreciation and look back historically to see that. So that's what I've got for you. I mean, I'm just an armchair economist, but I do focus only on real estate and mortgage. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you giving me the chance to stretch my mental legs there and kind of dive into that with you. If you'd ever like to have a conversation off the air about it, just give me a shout. I always am open to geeking out about this stuff. So I appreciate it. Hey, let's see if we can squeeze in one more question. What do we have, Jen? Hey, you hear that music? You know what that means? That's my cue. We'll be back in 2. Man, I really appreciated that question. As you can see, I have a tendency to go long on that stuff. But you know what? That's what I enjoy. I enjoy geeking out on the economic fundamentals of real estate. So I hope you found that interesting. But that music is my cue to take a break. So we'll be back in 2 short minutes. Sit tight. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com, www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
As a realtor, I have a bunch of mortgage brokers to choose from, but I prefer to work with Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team. In this crazy market, there is no room for error, especially on the mortgage side. Mark's team moves fast, keeps everybody in the loop, and makes things happen. They always give my clients a great deal and take the time to walk them through every step of the process. When you're considering a lender, I encourage you to talk to Mark Eitel and the Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you heard the man. Call or text your questions to the Mr. Mortgage Show via the Anytime Hotline, which is 855-462-7292. That is 855-462-7292. And Jen will get your questions on the air. She is my producer extraordinaire back there running the board and womanning the Anytime Hotline. Hey, I forgot to mention earlier, if you prefer to send questions via email, just visit us online by going to mr.mortgage. Never a .com. Guys, leave off the W's, leave off the .com. Just go up to the address bar, type in Mr., hit the period, type in mortgage, hit enter, boom, will pop right up in the upper right-hand corner is the contact us box. But hey, I did see one question in the break. Where do you find that information regarding those articles I referenced? Go to the Facebook page. I'll post it. It's posted there. I'll pin it to the top after the show. And the Facebook page for the radio show is The Mr. Mortgage Show. So just search us out on Facebook, The Mr. Mortgage Show, and that article will be on top of the page. So with all that being said, I am going to try to squeeze in a rapid round of questions because I know we've got some stacked up over there. So, hey, Jen, what do we have?
Brianna sent this one in. We are torn between doing a HELOC or a REC refinance. We are using money to pay off credit cards. I'd appreciate your input. Thanks.
Hey, Brianna, that's a great question. So there's lots of different thoughts around this. We might have to jump on the phone so I can get a better understanding of your personal situation. But one thing to know about an equity line of credit, a HELOC, is that rate's adjustable. So every time the Federal Reserve increases interest rates, your payment on the outstanding balance is going to go up. HELOCs often have an interest-only period. So there's a deceivingly low interest or a low payment required in the beginning, and it's usually a 10-year period. I've seen a lot of people get tripped up, and they're making that low payment, and they're using more of that equity line than they thought they were going to, and they end up refinancing the equity line and the first into another first mortgage anyway. So my words of caution around an equity line are this. They're going to adjust, so just be mindful of that. And then if property values ever decline, they can reduce or just close out the available balance on your equity line because it's based solely on the equity in your property. At least the availability of funds is based on the equity in your property. So if values go down, you might not have access to all the capital that you thought you were going to. So just be disciplined with it. And then one thing we're seeing start to pop up a little more often is as the Federal Reserve continues to increase interest rates, those equity line rates aren't as super attractive as they were a year ago. And a lot of people are just like, hey, if I can buy my rate down into the fives on a refinance, I might as well just refinance everything into one payment. I never have to look back. And then whatever happens, value-wise, they're never going to come knocking on your door and ask you to give some of that cash out money back. So, as that equity line interest rate starts to, go up continually with the Federal Reserve hikes, and me personally, I think there's more hikes coming, it's less attractive as it was. It was a no-brainer a year ago. Equity line rates were ridiculously low. They're not so much. We're seeing some of them depending on credit score and programs, in low double digits. So it's interesting. I'm happy to talk you through all of the strategies around both of them, though. If you'd like, just give us a call, 855-462-7292. Hey, Jen, what else do we have?
Jerry called asking, how do I get more info about the toy run you're sponsoring? It's this weekend, right?
Hey, Jerry. Yeah, thanks for reminding me about that. Guys, you've heard us talk about it for over a month now. It's finally here, Sunday at 9 a.m. at Pineapple Park. We're going to meet at 11 a.m. Everybody leaves from Pineapple Park and heads on out to Timer Powers Park in Indiantown. And we're raising money and collecting toys for the kids. Guys, it's an amazing day. It's a lot of fun. If you've never been on a police escorted toy run, it's really cool. The police stop all the traffic. You run right through the red lights. You're escorted all the way out there. There's going to be food, live music, raffles, giveaways. They're raffling off some big TVs and a lot of prizes. So it's super cool. Jenner, you're riding, right?
Yes, I'm going to ride. Flora and I will be all decked out and ready to ride.
All right, guys, for those of you who don't know, Jen rides a big red Harley Davidson that she named Flora. And she actually has a group of ladies who have their own motorcycles, and it's quite a sight to see. So I'm excited. Yeah, Jen, you're riding. That's cool.
Are you going to ride?
No, as much as I would love to, I've agreed to bring the Mortgage Mafia mobile out there. So I've got an old classic 64 Lincoln Continental with the suicide doors, and it's not a show car, guys. It's not a trailer queen. It's an old lowered rat rod painted flat black, and I just like to drive it around. But Luann in the group asked me to drive it out there because everybody loves seeing the old cars, and it gives me a chance to break it out. It's a nice drive. So I will be at Timer Powers Park, not on the motorcycle, but in the Mortgage Mafia mobile, and I would love to meet any of you. So to answer your question, go to, you can do this on Facebook too. Check out reddevilcycles.com, reddevilcycles.com. You can call Luann. She'll give you all the skinny. If you don't want to ride and you just want to drop toys or donation off, she'll figure that out for you too. Or on Facebook, Red Devil Cycle Toy Run. All the information will pop up there. But yeah, Jerry, thanks for that. I hope to see you on Sunday. And I can't wait to see Jen and Flora and her crew. It's going to be a lot of fun. So cool. Hey, guys, let's see if we can squeeze in a couple more questions.
Cindy sent us a text. What is the benefit of buying down the interest rate versus taking an adjustable rate mortgage?
That was Cindy. Okay, so that's a great question. Now, an adjustable rate mortgage has a fixed period, right? So you'll hear the term 3-1 ARM, 5-1 ARM. That first number denotes the fixed period. So a 3-1 ARM, the payment's fixed for 3 years. And then the 1 denotes how often it adjusts. So it adjusts every year thereafter. A buy down, there's a couple of buy downs that are floating around out there right now. One is a 2-1 or 3-2-1 buy down. And the one that I prefer is just the permanent buy down. So with a 3-2 or a 2-1 buy down, it is bought down 3% the first year, 2% the second, 1% the third, and then it adjusts. So let's say rates are 7.5%. I'm just throwing a round number. They're probably closer to 6.5%. Let's say they're 7, just so it's easy math for me. It would be 4% the first year, 5% the second, 6% the third, and then go to 7 and stay there for the rest of the loan. So you can already see the advantage. It adjusts back to the starting rate or the par rate, and then stays there for the whole loan. An adjustable rate mortgage can continue to go up every year thereafter. One of the interesting things is if rates go down, an adjustable rate mortgage will also go down. And I know a lot of people who had adjustable rate mortgages over the last 10 or 15 years who hit a home run. That's the big difference. If you're going to buy the rate down, what I'm encouraging my clients and my friends to do is take a hard look at the permanent buy down, because you buy that rate down one time and it stays at that lower rate for the full life of the loan. Now, because of that, you're not going to get a 7 all the way down to a 4, but you can get a 7 to a 6 or a 7 to 5 3/4. And the cool thing is it doesn't ever adjust. It's going to stay there no matter where rates go. And I know that no one likes to have to refinance, but you get to if you want to. So if I'm wrong and rates go south of 5%, you could always refinance in that example. So that's basically the difference. I hope that helps. If you need more information, you can give us a call, 855-462-7292, and we'll walk you through it. But I hope that helps. But guys, that was a great question. Interestingly enough, we're not seeing that big spread between the ARM and the fixed rate that we were as recently as, 3, 4, 5 years ago. There used to be a big gap between the adjustable rate and the 30-year fixed rate, but right now they're not priced that differently, and that's why I'm more excited about that permanent buy down. And the reason they're not priced significantly different at the moment is the secondary market doesn't believe rates are going to stay here for very long, and they don't want to go out there and fund a bunch of mortgages that are going to quickly refinance to get to that lower 30-year fixed rate that most people believe we're going to get back to somewhere in the next 12 to 24 months. So guys, I hope that helped. But you hear the music, you know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back into Sit Tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the show.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction, and that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome, but if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com, www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
My wife and I own a small business. And the way our accountant file our taxes, we don't show much income on tax returns. Because of this, it looks as if we don't make the money. This was a problem for our bank when we applied for a mortgage. But not for Mark. He verifies our income by using our monthly bank statements. Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team made a big difference for me. Yes, I am happy to recommend Mr. Mortgage Mark.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, I hope you've gotten some good information so far. We've had some great questions, everything from equity lines to adjustable rate mortgages to reverse mortgages. We've had some good stuff. So I'm going to try to squeeze a couple more questions in. Hey, Jen, what do we have?
Aaron sent this email. I'm going to need your help soon. I have 3 rental houses I'm going to sell in January. I think the 1031 exchange is the way to go. How long do we get after we sell to buy the new properties? Do you have a 1031 exchange company to recommend?
Great question. Yes, I can help you get in touch with a facilitator of the 1031 exchange. And to answer your question, you've got 45 days to identify the new property And I believe, and we'll confirm this with the facilitator, but I believe it's 180 days to consummate the deal or close on it. So, and guys, if you don't know, a 1031 exchange is an amazing tax deferral tool. It allows you to sell an investment property and move those proceeds into escrow and then use those proceeds to buy another property without having to pay capital gains on it. So a lot of investors use that strategy to move up and sometimes even move down, but buy multiple properties. And I think you can exchange 1 for 3, but I'll have to confirm that also. Brilliant question. I hope that helps. Hey, Jen, can we squeeze one more in?
Martha called this in. I'm looking at a vacation house in South Carolina. Do we need a special loan if we intend to rent it as an Airbnb when we are not there?
So that's a great question. If you bought it as a second home and you didn't intend to rent it out, there's no income being produced, so you're going to be required to carry all of that debt. If you buy it with the landlord loan and use an average monthly income from short-term rental, you could buy that property without having to use your personal income to support that debt, assuming there's enough Airbnb money coming in to support that debt. And you could do that same strategy with a straight investment purchase loan. So it depends on your ability to carry that debt on your finances, on your credit, on your income. It would kind of dictate which one of those two strategies may make the most sense for you. But brilliant question, and congrats on buying the second home. And a lot of people do that, by the way. A lot of people will buy a second home in an ideal location like that, and they're not there that often. I've got a friend who owns a beautiful waterfront property over in Cape Coral, and they only weekend over there a few times a year, and then they'll spend a couple weeks at a time during peak season over there. So they Airbnb it out the rest of the time. And man, they do really well with it. So that was a brilliant question, and I appreciate that. Hey guys, we've had a lot of great questions today. If you're just jumping in, you've missed the beginning of the show. Man, you missed some good stuff. If you want to double back and check it out and see what you missed, go to MrMortgageRadio.com. There you will find all of the recorded versions of the show. We post them up there. At the end of the broadcast, Jen will take the recorded version and post it up to the podcast page, which is MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. And you heard me talk a lot about the Facebook page. That's where I dump all the data that you hear me reference each week. And I kind of poked fun at CNBC for swinging and missing headline-wise so often around housing. All those articles are also in the Facebook page, which is located at Facebook. And you can find the page by searching the Mr. Mortgage Show on Facebook. So MrMortgageRadio.com is the podcast, the Mr. Mortgage Show on Facebook, or Mr.MortgageNever.com. Mr.Mortgage is where you find us online. But guys, great show. Really enjoyed all your questions so far. Hey, before we go any further, I want to ask everybody a favor. You hear me ask from time to time, if you've enjoyed the show, if any of this resonates, if you think somebody would get some value out of it and benefit from what we're talking about, please share the show. You can share any one of those resources. Mr. Mortgage Radio is probably the easiest one. And I would encourage them to call or listen. I'll be happy to answer their questions. If you have any friends or family or coworkers who have questions regarding buying or selling real estate, as always, I'd love the opportunity to talk with them. I'd be happy to help them if I can. I'm hoping I can count on you to introduce me to somebody who may need our services. But man, what a great show. Hey, Jen, I know we're getting close to wrapping it up. Do you want to say anything to the people?
Goodbye, Jen. Have a great week.
Have a great week. We will see you on Sunday, guys. And if you want to see Jen on Sunday or see me in the Mr. Mortgage Mobile, come on out to Timer Powers Park or jump into the toy run. Just check out reddevilcycles.com and call the shop. They'll get you squared away on where to be at what time. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're super excited about it. But hey, you hear the music? You know what that means? We've wrapped up another week. Man, where does the time go? We always have so much fun with you, but if you need us during the week, just give us a call, 855-462-7292. Check us out online at Mr.MortgageNever.com or check out the back episodes at Mr. Mortgage Radio. Guys, have a fantastic week. We will see you next week right here. Next week is Thanksgiving. Will we do a Thanksgiving show? Will we not do a Thanksgiving show? Will we eat turkey on the air? There's only one way to find out. Be here next week.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.